greatest form of wealth that I've ever seen on a physical sense, not so much spiritual or metaphorical, but actual physical wealth, would have to be the 40 acres that I was privileged. Alex privilege. In a way, I had more than other children. There may be some things that I don't like about my childhood. You know, there may be things that annoy us all. When it comes down to brass tacks, when it comes down to the lump sum, after everything's tallied up, after every year was looked at of the childhood, and comparing that place in the 1980s, growing up in Aurora, Oregon, on Airport Road, Bill Nagel, N-A-G-L, and being able to experience what a lot of other kids, not just kids around the world, in a world where billions starve, but a lot of American kids. I was privileged to have had a upbringing in which my mother, although she wasn't perfect, who is, I'm not, I was not exposed to direct drug usage. I was not exposed to sexual behavior. I was not exposed to anyone beating my mother. I wasn't exposed to harmful things that other children were exposed to. Well, my father wasn't in the picture. And I grew up to be an adult that would find myself at odds with my father politically, morally, religiously, and every other which way but loose. My grandfather was one of the strongest real father figures. And so when I think about, like playing with my uncle as a young kid, times weren't perfect for him, nor I, but you know what? They were better, and he had a better life. And she, my mother, she had a better life than a lot of other women on this planet because of the 40 acres. We were sheltered from some of the more insane things of this society. It was a refuge to return to when the world's cold shoulder, when the world showed us its teeth, when the world bit, when the world hurt, when the world was just a big old emotional fireball of drama. City life. There was always the refuge. So I think about the filbert trees. And for those of you that are familiar with how expensive nuts are, whether it be at Whole Foods or somewhere else, go look and see how much their filberts are. Seriously. Now that home sold in 93, 94 during not a great time for real estate. Had it sold in, say, 1996 or 1997, it would have sold for a lot more. And with all the migration to Oregon, I'm sure it's worth a lot more. But nothing lasts forever. And, for reasons beyond my control, the farm did sell. What I want to say is that sometimes we come across experiences where we have great wealth, or we're around others of great wealth, and we may not have really understood what we had when we had it until we're an adult, and we travel the rest of America, especially in today's day and age, where so many rent slaves. I would say even more so now than then. There were more people living a rural way of life even then. Although it had changed greatly since the Great Depression. During that period, 90% lived in the countryside with 10% in the urban areas. And now it's reversed on its head. And the number of people living in rural areas, it's getting even smaller. And now we have new land use codes and other regulations to where people are being told that it's illegal for them to live, quote unquote, off the grid, unless they have things from the grid, major infrastructure of the grid that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. My grandfather, of course, those of you that weren't born yesterday understand that those of the World War II generation, their dollar went somewhere, and the dollar was worth more then. And they had more opportunity then as veterans. Compare that to the homeless veterans today. I only wish more veterans today would understand these recent wars of imperialism and conquest and genocide are morally wrong, and they shouldn't be surprised when veterans of morally incorrect wars find themselves on the streets of America. That should not happen. But it is happening, and it shows that the powers that be do not care about today's veterans like they did my grandfather's generation. This is not the same world. These are not the same wars. And so the reality is my grandfather had a lot more opportunity. In Aurora, Oregon, he delivered the mail. In Aurora, Oregon, he opened up Bill Nagel, NAGL, still stands there today. He passed away in 2004. He said he didn't want to leave this world till his grandson was on the right path. Not on drugs, not fucking up, not in jail. What happened was the day after my first recording, my grandfather passed. He passed within 24 hours of my first recording. I did a 9/11 show. It was Outside the Box #1. Talk about a pinch yourself moment. So my grandfather worked hard, and the American dream cashed out for him. And countless other families, countless other men, countless other veterans. That was another time. It's been a long time since a veteran or a man in general just simply working hard to be able to go out and get that much space, to have a family and have enough to grow food. Now, I want to talk about the value of 40 acres in today's day and age. Let's say you had people that basically got along. That's the most important thing when it comes to an intentional community, whether it be a family or a family and their friends, and maybe a loose-knit structure. I've often thought about the amount of space. Granted, of course, the county or the city of Aurora never came to kick everybody off, but think about people growing their own food. Think about people raising their own children. Think about people with local businesses using the internet and technology that exists today that didn't exist in 1993. Okay? And using those shops and using that for the greater good, and maybe developing better deals. Maybe going out and picking those hazelnuts ourselves and not doing it wholesale to the farmer that'll come with a big monster truck. Boy, I remember seeing that big monster truck as a kid. It would come like the Matrix, and I would just sit there and whore as this machine would come and harvest the filberts and whatnot. And that place was a place of refuge. And when it got boring, there was Portland and my experiences that were mostly positive with my father. And then when Portland's energy, even though I didn't know very much about the dark Portland energy, I came to realize that as an adult. I found myself wanting to get away from that Portland energy after 2 days. I felt dirty. Etherically. I was such a sensitive, I was such a quote-unquote empath as a little boy, cute little boy. I'm going to have to upload on my on-demand channel some of my best of videos of all time. One of the videos will be Alex at the age of 12 years old. Some of the only footage that I have. So I have some really positive memories going from the farm to seeing my father, and even the energy of nature that I think I brought my father. As today, as a man, now 37 years old, crossing the Rubicon of my most recent birthday on the 25th of February, I feel myself bringing nature and the spirit of nature to many of you that are watching this channel and watching my progress and seeing my inspiration from nature. This isn't something that's necessarily new. I have memories of walking with my mother and my uncle to a nearby neighbor's where we had permission to walk and just see a slice of nature. I know, like, we were some of the first people to settle in that area. I mean, there were other people, but there were aspects of nature behind some people's properties that was relatively untouched. You know, and to think about the Native Americans that may have settled in that area, but to know that we were the first family, per se, and large-scale home on that property during a time where there probably wasn't a lot there, and probably was open fields 50 years or 100 years prior to Grandpa Bill buying the property. My grandpa was the epitome of the American dream. My grandpa was the epitome of a man that could take a little bit of money and start investing in real estate and other things in which things are growing in a positive manner and not with these wild fluctuations. You know, if you build it, they will come. They will rent it. If you work hard enough, you know, you will be able to build that which they will rent. You know, and to do so in a day and age without all these fees and permits. So, I'm privileged in the sense that I was around one of the truest forms of real wealth, next to gold, next to silver, and for some people, guns. And there's other forms of wealth. Land. Not a little bit of land, but enough land for you to do something with that. And enough land that can house multiple families if need be, and enough land to which you can grow it. My concluding thoughts. I haven't lost anything from that experience, nor did the others that were privileged. It's healthy to shed a tear and feel emotion because we appreciate. And when you thank the Creator for certain things, you know, when you have gratitude, it allows the universe to bring us back more of that energy. And there's a lot of people out there that are focusing on what they don't have and what they want, and they're lost in lust, they're lost in desire, they're lost in jealousy, they're lost in resentment, they're lost in mourning, either for something that they no longer have that's material or for a loved one. That's not the point of remembering those that came before us. That's not the point of being grateful for those things. And this is really a conversation about the appreciation of raw nature. And the ability for man to have a family, and to be able to have his fort, and to be able to build his fort away from the big cities, and for their fort, for their land to be a sanctuary with or without a gate. So may I, in the coming months and years, experience the magic of being close to nature in what ways I can, even though it's only 1 acre. It's only 1 acre, but like the purity of water. How do I say this? So it's about the structure of water, not necessarily the molecular nature of water, just like Water, the documentary. So in this experience here, it's not about the quantity of it, it's about the quality of it. And on a molecular nature, on a raw form, I'm reconnecting with my childhood. I'm reconnecting with even my grandfather's spirit in connecting with nature and going off grid and taking the baby steps that I can to improve the way I'm living on one of the few things that I've ever owned. The only real form of material wealth that matters to me. Again, spiritual is more important than any material wealth. But to strictly talk about that, for me, it's a massive sign that I'm not alone. I can feel the Creator's hand in that journey from homelessness in Portland, Oregon, to making payments on something that I'm going to own outright in full. And so, perhaps, possibly, if I never had that experience through my mother via my grandfather on the 40 acres, perhaps I wouldn't have set out on the journey to own my own land and feel secure in a very insecure world, in a world that I think is going to be facing some major geopolitical threats. So for that, for the experience that I was privileged as a child to have, for that I am grateful. Alex Ansary sign off, March 4th, 2017.